Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fahmy. I will be your presenter today. Just a very quick overview. I'm sure you will have a chance to see my bio, but I am an engineer. My background's an engineer. I have been with Procept for about 7 years or so. I am a senior instructor with them. I taught at U of A for 10 years, teaching project management, risk management, contract administration, communication, and so on. I also taught at U of C. In my career of almost 50 years, I have been a contractor, a consultant, and an owner rep. So basically, hopefully I can share with you some of my experience in this area. Okay, let's start. I want you to imagine a world without a light bulb or an internet or cell phone. Those revolutionary inventions were born out from a creative mind of some individuals like me and you. The only thing that is different between us and them is they dare to think differently. Today, we're going to explore different ways of thinking creatively and coming up with newer renovations or innovations. So hopefully this session will inspire you to unlock your potential. Okay, let me start with a very simple question. How creative are you? How creative are you? Let me give you just a few seconds to think about that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you fit? Where do you think you fit? Let me give you some good news. Creativity and innovation is a learned skill. Okay, you can learn it. Certainly, there are some people that are born creative. That's fine. It's a talent that they have. I have a Canadian friend of mine. He lives in the States. His job is to come up with 3 creative inventions every week. That's his job description. Okay, let's discuss very quickly what you thought about. Why did you give, again, maybe I didn't get too many answers, but why did you give yourself that rate? 5 or 7 or whatever. What is your definition of creativity? And of course, do you need to be creative in your work? Let me share with you, basically, I hope you can see the slide here and my mouse. This research was done, I think, 30 years ago, where they found the kids that are from grade 1 to 4, basically, they were very creative. They thought that they are 80 to 90% creative. Here, grade 5 to 7, around 60, 8 to 10, around 30, 11, 12, around 15 or something. At university level, I used to teach this course, and I asked them the same question. Most people come to, or 5% of them says we are creative. So I have a class of basically 5. Can you imagine basically 2 of them? This is basically what's happening in our education system. As we grow older, our creativity is limited. I don't know why. Anyway, here are the session's objective. Upon completion of this session, you will be able to recognize your potential. Hopefully, you get motivated to think in a creative way. You will appraise your and challenge your present project management practices and say, we need to be creative. I need to think out of the box and so on. You will be able to identify and use 5 creative tools that I will share with you. In summary, you will become much more creative. I really have a hidden objective, which I can share with you right now, is I want to help you work smarter, not harder. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to have a quick introduction to creativity or definitions and so on. Why bother with definition? Why bother with creativity and innovation? Why think about it? Why be creative? What are the characteristics of a creative person? How to encourage creativity in yourself, in your team, in your employee, and finally, we're going to end up with 5 most important creativity tools. So, what is creativity? Anybody can think about what is creativity? Oh, okay, coming up with something new. Okay, that's a good one. New ideas, that's new one. Okay, so creativity, basically, I have 3 definitions here. Coming up with new ideas, approaches, action, new way of seeing things, or seeing something new in something that is existing. I'll give you an example. I was actually a few months ago. I was driving, as I live in the West End, and there is basically a shopping mall, small shopping mall. And as you come up from the small shopping mall, there is a wall that everybody sees. And all of a sudden, this wall is full of advertising. And I said, wow, this is a great idea. So I end up actually talking to the guy that owns the house where he owns that fence. And guess what? He's renting the fence and he has 17 advertising. And I think he rent them for about $100 a month. Can you imagine he's getting $1,700 a month from using that fence? He's paying for his mortgage. Just a great creative idea of how to use his fence where it is. It's an excellent, great idea. And that was creative idea. And he turned that creative idea into what we call innovative idea that he brings money. So innovation is the process of implementing this creative idea to create value. So he created value. He's getting $1,700 every month just for creative use of his fence. So innovation encompasses turning your action or your creativity into something that is useful and valuable. Basically, I call that commercialization of the idea. Now that we have established the essence of what is creativity, what's innovation, there is actually an intrinsic connection between the two. Creativity, fuel innovation, it really initializes the spark for innovation and inspiration by breaking the barriers. That's a first step. And then innovation basically channels creativity. Uh, it takes those ideas and channel it to make it a practical, useful, valuable application. That is basically the relationship between the two. Let's move on. Now, let me basically test your creative mind and your perception. How many squares do you see in this slide? I'm going to give you 1 minute. Think about that. You can share with me in the chat. Anybody? Can you guess? 20, 35. Okay, that's a good one. Anybody higher? I'm sure all of you have seen the big square and those 16 squares. I'm sure you also saw those groups of 4 squares. You can see here, it's 4 square here and a 4 square here, a 4 square here. I'm sure you also saw those 9 squares. There are 4 of them, and so on. Here's the challenge. Did you ever see those crosses between those lines everywhere? There's a square right here, another one right here, another one right here, another one right here, and so on. Did you ever imagine that there is another groups of squares behind this one? That will double it. That will double it. Again, the one that most people forget is squares. How many squares? This word here is part of the slide. Most people think here. Some people actually in different group challenge it. Oh, you are changing the rules. I thought this is only here. But that is how you think out of the box. You don't have to follow the rules. Come up with your own rules. Be different. And that is what I'm trying to reinforce for the rest of the session is be unique, be different, think out of the box. This thinking is allowed. Please remember that. Okay, let's move on. My question to you now, why bother with creativity and innovation? The world is moving so fast around us. Competition is so fierce. Change is everywhere. Creativity and innovation is becoming the lifeblood of each one of us reason for success. The ability to think out of the box, the ability to define your box and say, okay, I'm going to think out, change the norm or challenge them, discover new ways of doing new things. And that is what Edward de Bono actually talked to us about. Look at this one here. Here's what he said. As competition intensifies, the need for creative thinking increase. It's no longer enough to do the same thing better. no longer enough to be efficient and solve problems. Very important. Look at what this research was done 2021 was IBM. This is the time where we just getting out of uh, our worst economic condition in 2008. They surveyed, I believe, 1,500 people or 1,500 chief executive officers. They asked them basically what's the most important leadership quality. 60% of them, creativity. Wow. It even comes before integrity and influence and those traditional ones. So that really give us a very important message to make sure that we are creative. Make sure that we always think different than other people. That is the key. In my opinion, creativity means survive. Look at this. If you think, you come up with creative ideas, you perform better, you make money, you stay in business, and you have job. So can you see now how I was able to connect more jobs with the way you think? And that's how companies stay in business. Creativity and innovation makes a difference between a good project manager and extraordinary one. So let me give you some idea what I mean by coming up with creative idea. And that, of course, applies to all of us, to everyone, regardless whether you are a project manager or a team member or an owner or a contractor or whoever. Okay. Here are 7 ways of thinking as a project manager. And of course, that can apply to anything that you do. Okay. How to increase client involvement in your project. Client involvement, client satisfaction is extremely important. So you need to think of ways. Maybe you can make that a session with your team or with your board, whatever. How can we increase the client involvement in our project? How to improve owner contractor relationship and trust. This is something that we lack in construction operation. Trust and good relationship between owner, contractor, and consultant. Something extremely important. How to improve the communication approach. What can I do to improve communication with my spouse, with my kids, with my family, with my colleagues, with my team members, and so on? There is so many ways of thinking of this. How do you define success? How other people define success? Are you following other people or are you creating your own success criteria? How can I maximize my success as a company or as an individual? How can we create trusting relationship with subcontractors and so on? So I'm going to leave that with you to consider in your relationship, in your business, and so on. Few misconceptions about basically creativity. Creative people are born, not made. This is not right, and I'm going to prove that to you in a minute. Creativity is not for everyone. That is not true. Creativity is your business. My boss doesn't help me. You don't need your boss to help you be creative. It comes from within. No time for creativity. I am so busy. You can sit for 15 minutes uninterrupted every day, you will be surprised what you can come up with, provided you put your mind into it. That is the question. The tools doesn't help. The tools do help quite a bit, and we're going to cover 5 tools in a minute. Look at what Edward de Bono. Does anybody know who is Edward de Bono? Edward de Bono actually authored 85 books, most of them on creativity and innovation. I read 6 or 8 of them. Very good. Very good. That's what he said. If you wait for opportunities to occur, you will be one of the crowd. And that is the whole idea. You need to be unique. You need to create ideas, not to wait until the idea knocks at your door. It doesn't. You need to create it yourself. Here's some characteristics of creative project management or creative people in general. The first one is they like to have fun. They like to explore. They are optimistic. They are not afraid. They take risks. They look for problems so they can solve them. They take risks. They have lots of imagination. They don't care about the outcome. I just wanted to come up with something new. They keep trying. They never give up. Of course, if you continue to become creative, you will eventually make some silly mistakes. They are curious, and that is what makes an creative person. They want to find something new. They look where other people stop. They start and say, okay, this will not work. Okay, give it to me. I will make it work. And so on. They are playful. I want you to take a look at those ones and see what kind of people really have those characteristics. Any ideas? Hey, okay, that's good. Somebody said children, and that is very true. That is very true. If you look at most of those characteristics, they belong to children. They have imagination. They take risks. They like to try. They never look at the child when he tries to walk or she tries to walk. How many times does he stand and fall? Never give up. Look at the children when they try to ride a bicycle. How many times do they fall? They're very playful. So that justifies why kids are creative. Here's some mental blocks, basically, to creative thinking. 4 of them. The first one is prejudice. Some people have preconceived ideas about things, and they don't really go beyond that. Unfortunately, most people that are older, they are used to a certain way of doing things. They don't think beyond. They have lots of experience, and of course, that stops them from pushing it further. Let me give you an example. This is almost 30 years ago. I was renovating the basement. Our kids at that time were younger, about maybe 7, 8 years old, my son. And I laid out the basement And I said, George, this is your room. He said, oh my dad, this room is too small. I said, George, well, this is a small basement, and this is how it is. He said, Dad, I have a good idea. I said, yeah. He said, like his room was right in the corner, so two walls of them was, concrete wall, the basement, and say, why don't you get the people that work with you to push this wall maybe 2-3 feet this way, and this wall 2-3, that will give me a much larger room. That's creative thinking. Of course, it doesn't have that limitation, that concrete wall, you can't push it out. You have the wall full of course, dirt and so on. But he didn't think that way. So think about what is possible, and of course, solutions will come. Another thing is functional fixation. Most people think of things as they are, not as they could be. They label things. This is what it is used for. I remember I was in Libya. This is many years ago when I started my career. I went to Libya for a couple of years, and I was sitting, and they brought me a cup of tea. They use glass there. So I said, I need some sugar. So they give me more sugar. I said, now I need a spoon. So somebody, the superintendent, just pulled a screwdriver from his pocket and say, here it is. I just look at him and say, is this clean? He said, it's full of dust, but it's okay. So that is functional fixation. Screwdriver is for basically unscrewing screws, not to use it as a spoon. But that was my mind fixation at the time. How about learned hopelessness? Let me give you an example to help you define it. Basically, I don't have the time to do that. My boss doesn't give me time. I don't have the tools. Why don't we get a specialist to help us with this? Why don't you think about it yourself, for God's sake? Okay. Now, internet is everywhere and has lots of information. The last issue is psychological blocks. It doesn't sound right. Somebody in my position should never think that way. I am this and I am that. I am not a child. I don't think in this way, whatever it is. All those mental blocks stop us from being creative, from basically thinking and solving problems. So, do you really want to be creative? Let me summarize those previous blocks in one slide, which is right here. Don't do what others usually do. Don't do what others usually do. And number two, don't repeat what you used to do. That is so important and so critical. Just two things. Be unique, be different. Okay, let's move on. Let me give you another exercise here to get your creative mind. Let's do it individually. Yeah? I sometimes, when you have, it looks like you guys are not very enthusiastic to work with me today. I'm not getting too much response. I want you to think of 20 new uses for a screwdriver. Think of a screwdriver and basically what will you use it for? I need 20 uses. I'm going to give you 1 minute. You can share with me through the chat how many did you get? Come on. I need at least one person. Okay, 7. Okay, that's good. That's good. 7. One person, 7 is not too bad. In one group, I was teaching this to teacher convention. One group came with 27 uses for the screwdriver, and they showed them to me. It was a good group. So if you think more, I'm sure you're going to come up with more. Okay, how to encourage creativity in your group? How to encourage creativity? The first one is hire creative people. Make it a requirement or use some questions in the interview. Ask them, are you creative? You will be surprised what will be people respond if you are asking that question in an interview. In Russia, I was teaching this to a group from the city of Edmonton, and there was one lady that came from Russia. She's working with the city now. She said they used to ask them to come up with a creative idea in their field. She used to work in oil and gas. Come up with creative idea. It doesn't matter if it is crazy or not, but just give us some ideas. And you will not get paid until you actually give them creative ideas. I'm actually surprised, but that's good. Okay. Number 3, reward new ideas. Don't let it go unnoticed. Accept failure. If people comes with new creative ideas, failure is a possibility, and you need to accept that. Encourage people to do and take calculated risk. Allow people to be creative. Create a relaxed and worry-free environment for people that are creative. Encourage interdepartmental dialogue. Why? Why when you get people from different departments come together, new ideas emerge? Any ideas? People from different departments come with their own different idea. We're going to cover that in a minute. Use creative idea log. Have a log and people write their ideas and their name next to it. You would be surprised. People will come up with new ideas. Never deliver a presentation the same way. I apply that to my own business all the time. Never deliver 2 courses in the same way. Always come up with ideas, suggestions, different approaches, different examples. I remember I was preparing for this, and the wife heard that yesterday that I'm preparing for this, and she said, "Wow, you have been doing this for 20 years." I said, "Yeah, I know. But this is the first time I'm teaching it tomorrow. It's always the first time for me." So you need to come up with new examples to make it more interesting for me. That is very important. So please consider that for yourself. Here are some creative tools that will help us. The first one is reframing, looking at the problem from a different angle. And that's what we thought about, getting 2, 3 departments together. Involve different people. Look at this diagram here. You have a problem, involve project manager, operating maintenance people, engineer, architect, inexperienced person. This person would be very helpful. I remember I had a problem with basically trying to resolve an issue between a contractor and an owner. And I talked to my brother, who is a doctor. So I said, you know, Bill, I have this issue. What do you think? He said, I think you forgot that I am a doctor. I said, no, no, I did not forget. I know you're a doctor, but what does a doctor think about this problem? How would you solve it? Using your medicine stuff. Surprisingly, after half an hour of discussion, I came up with a good suggestion. So involve other people, involve inexperienced people in your business. I did the same thing with another young lady. She is an architect and she has probably 3-4 years of experience. I asked her, I said, look, I have an issue here. What do you think? She said, you are asking me? I said, yeah, what's the problem? She said, you have 40 years of experience. And I have 4. I said, that's okay, but I want to know your opinion as an architect. I am an engineer. She said, oh, okay, if that's what you wanted, that's great. And that's, of course, that was a very nice boost for her self-esteem. That's another very good idea that you can do. Okay, let's move on. Here's another example. As a project manager, involves a sub-trade, the subcontractors, the owners, the contractor, the consultant in solving any problem. You will be surprised how much can you gain by involving those people. Because again, everybody bring his own way of thinking. Each one of those guys have different color glasses. They look at things in a different way. Think about that. Okay, let's move on. The next tool is reversed brainstorming. We call it negative brainstorming. Ask the opposite questions of the question that you want answered. That will shed a brand new answer to your issues and enlighten you. And usually it is fun. And people actually, you will be surprised, like it more. Most people like to think of negative things. Okay, so for example, if I want to basically brainstorm how can I enhance my relationship with my team or with my spouse or my kids, whatever it is. Now the reverse brainstorming is how can I worsen? What can I do to make my relationship bad? Oh, I can think of 20 things. You list those things here and then you reverse them. Again, in the reversal and the action and reversing it again, and so creative ideas will come up and you will be surprised. I did that and it was a lot of fun. Most people will basically participate in the reverse uh, question much more in the original question. Try it, try it. I left, there are a few other basically questions here that you can use as well. The third tool is basically 6 thinking hats. Six thinking hats is really a very nice tool. It was created by Edward de Bono, who wrote quite a thick book on it. And I used to teach that at NATE in 1985, actually, long time ago. This is how it works. Adds a blue hat. So basically, you have 6 hats, As a blue hat, this is the hat that I will be wearing. Okay, I will be the organizer, and blue represent the sky. It's basically something that's overview of the whole process. And say, okay, let's all of us put our white hat on. What are the factors of this problem? So if you want to solve a problem, or you want to discuss a problem, you want to evaluate an issue, whatever it is. So you start, everybody in the team, you have 5, 6, 10 people team, everybody think about the facts, the figures, the information, what are the needs, and so on. This is a white hat. Then comes a red hat. What is your intuition? Oh, I think that is tough to do. Your feeling, your emotions. And here, whatever people say, you don't need to justify it. Just basically accept what is being said. The yellow hat is a logical thinking hat. Okay? We need more justification here. That doesn't make sense because we need to get more information and so on. Number 5, the black hat. Black hat is the negative hat. Remember, everybody is thinking negative. Everybody is thinking facts. So the negative part, everybody now take a negative approach to this problem and say, this, we have to be very careful about this problem. There's lots of risk. This can cause us many challenges in the future. This will be hard to apply or enforce, whatever it is. Anything that is negative about that particular topic or issue. And the last one is a green one. Creative thinking. Come up with new ideas, new alternatives, new opportunities, and so on. Great, great tool. There's lots of videos in the internet regarding this. I encourage you to go there and try it. It will help you a lot. I used to do that a lot in my work. Look at this. Think of the present environment and start thinking schooling from home for everyone. That's a good idea. All shopping centers are closed now, and basically we are going to do online shopping. Schools have no principals, no vice principals, just teachers. Can we survive that? It makes it good. Like some of the stuff that I use for construction, for example, consultant basically can do the design with no reviews whatsoever. Something like that. Provocation. Provocation is basically asking a stupid question and let people think about it. It provokes your brain. It breaks or challenge our what do we take for granted. It challenges the existing way of thinking. Okay, here's some ideas. What happens if project management is done by a robot? When you have a robot doing project management, how will that happen? How will the team react? I remember one time I was talking, actually, this is very recent, a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to one guy. His boss told him, don't come to me with any question. The first thing you do is go to AI. Find out what is their answer to your problem. And if you are not satisfied, come to me. Wow, that's a new approach. Think about that. So Chat GPT will be your friend. If you have any questions, go there first. If you don't get the answer that you need, or if they cannot provide you with an answer, come to me. Different approach. So keep that in mind. What if question? That is positive provocation. This is something that is, I really like that approach. Our major block to creativity is our reality. I talk about myself when it comes to old age. This is the way we, or I was conditioned to think for the last 40, 50 years. Very difficult for many people to get out of it. So you need to force them to think, what if this happened? In this case, what you are actually doing is you are creating a new reality. What if this is a reality now? What will you do? What if you come home and you find that you don't have the key to open the door to your house? What happened? Yeah, but in the last 20 years, I always have that key. But what happened if you don't? And we use that actually in risk management quite a bit to make people think out of the box, makes them challenge their traditional way of thinking. That is the key. Here's an exercise I wanted to show it to you here. What if you are stuck home for 8 months and you do not have food and you can't get out? What happened? What will be the consequence? What if you have all the money in the world? What would you do? Those are actually questions that you need to think about it. You can, of course, come up with, look at here. What if consultants are allowed to complete their work with no review or overseeing by the project manager or the owner or whatever? Think about those ones. Of course, come up with things that relate to your specific business or job and come up with new ideas. Okay, now let us summarize. Just I want to give you 5 minutes for questions. So the first thing that I will really advise you to do is keep looking where others stop. Continue. Don't start from scratch. Say, okay, where most people have problem here, I'm gonna take it over. Think about turning risky situations to opportunities. This one thing that I teach risk management, and this is one thing that I encourage people to think on risk response. Most people risk response, oh, we're going to share the risk. We are going to basically avoid the risk. We're going to accept the risk and so on. And I say, why don't you add number 6, basically turning risk into opportunity? Give that a chance. Why not? And I usually give them 2, 3 examples of turning risk into opportunities. Try to come up with one creative idea related to your work every week. Think about that. Focus on any issues that you actually have faced before or other people have faced before and try to come up with those new ideas. Forecast challenges and prepare for them. That is, again, very creative. Work on your creative ability. Start using those tools. You will be surprised. It will help you become more creative. Every one of us have creative abilities, but you need to dig them out. You need to put them to use. Challenge your own project management practice. Challenge whatever you do right now. Can I do it better? Can I do it faster? Can I save 2 or 3 steps? And this is what Agile is all about. The fact that they say simplify. Simplify anything that you do. If you are used to do things in 10 steps, can you make them in 8? And of course, the last one, number 7, encourage creativity at home and at work. Very, very important. Finally, just a quick call for action. As we come to basically the end of our journey today, let us remember that every one of us, and I tried to prove that to you earlier, uh, is actually creative. You have untapped creativity and innovation practice within you, starting when you were a child and somehow it was capped. Recognize when, if you are older like myself, basically you have some limitation because of the way you were brought up. Now try to put that aside. Look at the qualities that we explained, and mostly are kids' quality, and try to unlock your power. So challenge yourself to think differently. As we said before, don't do anything the same way as you did before. Come up with different way of doing things, and you will find yourself becoming much more creative and much more innovative. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for attending. Wish you all the best when it comes to creative ideas and creative solutions to your issues. Look where other people stopped, and you will enjoy the creative mind that we all have and most of us don't use. Take care. All the best.